So Ronda Rousey, former baddest woman on the planet, just went nuclear on one of UFC's most powerful executives. And honestly, this might be bigger than the Gina Carano fight itself, happening this weekend on MVP Promotions, guys. It's going to be absolutely crazy. There's so much drama and hype leading up into this fight. And to me, it seems like Ronda Rousey, Dana, the UFC, they're not really seeing eye to eye on all this stuff. But anyways, guys, welcome to Duality 7X. Welcome back. I'm your host, Shiraz. I want to talk to you a little bit about kind of what's going on, some of the drama that's happening, leading up to this fight. And who knows? I mean, a lot of this is the kind of stuff that you want to hear leading into a fight because it builds more hype, it builds more momentum. But Ronda Rousey, Ronda Rousey always finds a way to get it back into the headlines. And look, I mean, she used to be the baddest woman on the planet, and this is not. I mean, this is no longer a comeback fight kind of a discussion or conversation. This has now turned into a public war between one of the biggest stars in MMA history and the UFC power structure behind the scenes that operates behind the scenes, guys. And I'll talk a little bit about who they are, the brass of the UFC. And guys, when you take a deeper look into the whole situation, the story actually starts to reveal some of those layers. More importantly, it reveals how combat sports actually works. So these are the kind of things that Ronda has been known to get herself into, especially like a lot of drama with people. But here's the ultimate situation. The former baddest woman on the planet is now 39 years old. Okay, she's returning to MMA on Saturday to fight Gina Carano on a Netflix card promoted by Jake Paul's MVP Promotions, Most Valuable Promotions, and Gina Carano, she's a tough cookie, man. And let's be honest, guys. A few years ago, we almost thought that this fight, well, we probably wouldn't have ever seen this fight ever. It wouldn't happen. I mean, on paper, yeah, people talked about it, but we didn't think it was going to come to fruition. And ever since 2016, Ronda's had back-to-back losses against Amanda Nunes, Holly Holmes, if you guys remember. Meanwhile, Gina Carano, who's 44 years old, 5 years older than Ronda, she hasn't fought since 17 years ago, since her last loss against Cyborg. Do you remember that name, Cyborg? And despite all the layoffs, guys, I mean, this fight has massive implications. There's a lot of attention surrounding it, a lot of hype, global attention, and arguably we've got two of the biggest stars, women stars, female athletes in the world of MMA. I mean, Gina Carano helped make women's MMA feel mainstream way before UFC even cared about it. And then along came Ronda Rousey, man, and she completely changed the name of the game. She actually helped put women's MMA back on the map. I mean, and she was a former champion. Ronda Rousey was the main attraction. She helped push women. She helped push women into UFC main events, pay-per-views, ESPN. Guys, I remember this, the headlines. I mean, movie roles, all of it. I mean, you got to thank her for that. And now she's returning. She's returning to the octagon, but outside of the UFC banner. And that's important, guys. That's important because we all thought that she would be coming back potentially to fight in the UFC, but that's not happening. And Gina Carano, wow, what a career. I mean, she's done it all. Major Hollywood blockbuster, A-lister, for sure. She's done so many movies. But look, let's talk about Rousey for a second. Because according to Ronda, the UFC had the chance to make this fight themselves. Yes, they had the chance to have her fight Gina Carano. And based on Ronda's version of events, the UFC completely blew it. This is according to Ronda Rousey. And I mean, she's not happy with them. There's obviously, look, they know her star potential, they know what she's capable of, but something happened. And recently, Ronda Rousey was on the Ariel Helwani show, and she absolutely unloaded on UFC's chief business officer, Hunter Campbell. Hunter Campbell, he's a big dude, guys. And I'm not talking physically, but he's a very important figure. And she didn't hold back. She didn't hold back against him. She called him a chauvinistic prick. She accused Hunter Campbell of disrespecting her and Gina Carano during negotiations, and basically painted this picture of someone who was completely who completely underestimated the value of what these two women bring to this match, what they're trying to achieve, what they're trying to do, and whether you agree with Ronda, whether you disagree with her, I mean, it's completely irrelevant. The important part here is this tells us her version, her understanding, or her perception of where the UFC structure is and what's happening to it. Because Dana White used to be the face of every major negotiation, and now we've been hearing the name of Hunter Campbell for many years now, and he's quietly becoming one of the most influential people inside the company. I mean, if Dana were to ever leave, perhaps maybe move on, Hunter would probably take over. And he handles a huge amount of the business side now. I mean, it was recent, like, I mean, Ronda Rousey's comments give us a very, very rare public glimpse into how fighters sometimes feel during those very difficult and somewhat grueling negotiations and talks. Now, also according to Rousey, Dana White originally pitched the idea of having Ronda and Gina fight for the vacant UFC featherweight title at 145 pounds. Interesting. This was a symbolic kind of full circle moment, to officially retire the belt after Amanda Nunes left the division some time back. And honestly, I mean, I've been hearing a lot of people talk about this. I mean, from a storytelling perspective, that actually sounds like a smart idea. That's actually, you got to give it to Dana. I think that was fantastic. That was brilliant for him to even suggest that, to come up with that, and it would pay homage and respect to the title and to the fighters and to the division. But Ronda said that all that changed once Hunter Campbell got involved. Now, this is where the bigger issue starts to begin. Because on one hand, you've got Ronda kind of singing Dana's praises and essentially indicating the fact that there could have been potentially something happening there because of what Dana said. Then Hunter came and everything changed. And then Rousey's anger just, I mean, when she starts talking about money, I mean, it almost sounded very, very personal. And this all happened on the Ariel Helwani show, guys. I mean, she really felt disrespected. She felt dismissed. She felt undervalued, underestimated, and more importantly, she felt like women's featherweight fighters are being treated as disposable. Almost kind of like irrelevant. And look, that's that's kind of like the key point here, because on one hand, I think Dana was trying to do something positive, but then now everyone else is looking at it like, no, it wasn't positive. And remember, you have to understand the context here. Ronda started her career at 145 pounds before moving down to bantamweight. And then Gina Carano built her entire legacy at featherweight, guys. So when Rousey says that Hunter Campbell was talking about getting rid of the division entirely, she wasn't having any of that. She clearly took it as a huge disrespect, not only towards her, but to all the women who fight in that division, and for all the female fighters altogether in the world of MMA. Because taking away division, that's not good, right? I mean, now whether that's the UFC's intention or not, I mean, I'm not here to judge. I wasn't there. I don't know exactly what went down, but it does kind of show the cold reality of the fight business sometimes. But again, I don't want to speak to what Hunter did or didn't do because I wasn't there. But the UFC apparently looks at these divisions through a business lens. And if something's not working, then they try to fix it. Now, if a weight class isn't generating enough hype, enough contenders, enough star power, revenue, I mean, you have to understand they got to move on. Simple as that. Would you continue to run a business that runs in the deficit? No, you wouldn't. You either change it, and if it doesn't work, if it doesn't change, you move on. But see, the fighters, the talent, they don't see it that way. To fighters, these divisions represent careers. They sacrifices the time, the money, the blood, the sweat, the effort, everything. It identifies opportunities for them. And if you take all that away, what do they have? Nothing. This is where I think combat sports gets kind of ugly. It gets kind of messy because I mean the business logic when you factor in business logic and fighter emotion, it almost never really aligns, doesn't it? Right? Like I mean, not perfectly that is, but sometimes it just doesn't. And this is why sometimes the talent and the owners don't see eye to eye. This is why fighters have agents, so that agents from a business perspective can talk business with the owners. But anyways, where I found this story to get really interesting is, I mean, I don't think this is just about Hunter Campbell. I also think this is about Ronda Rousey trying to prove that something much more bigger than what it is, perhaps maybe, and not just I'm not just talking about just talking about the UFC, but perhaps I'm talking about the entire sport itself, right? The entire combat sports industry, the world of MMA, perhaps maybe even boxing, all of combat sports. And this is where I know a lot of people online have done a deep dive into kind of what's going on, trying to understand, decipher what Ronda Rousey was really talking about. But I mean, the kind of language she used, she's like, I'm going to go do some change, change the world kind of stuff. And then I'm coming for your job. And, it almost, I don't know. And then she was saying stuff like, you pissed off the wrong B, ITCH, right? I mean, that doesn't sound like somebody just taking one last paycheck fight. That sounds like somebody who's got an agenda, somebody who is hell bent on wanting to make a statement, and honestly, very, very pissed off Ronda Rousey. And honestly, Jake Paul's MVP promotion, this is perfect for her because they totally understand how to take that anger and harness it and market it out as pure energy. I mean, this is what his team does best. I mean, look, the UFC passed on fully committing to this event. Now Netflix gets the opportunity. They get the attention. The question is really going to come down to is how many people are going to tune into this fight, how much headlines it draws, and I mean, does Jake get the headlines? Is he in the black with this one, or is he in the red, right? So in Ronda Rousey, she gets to actually frame herself as a fighter that's trying to prove the big conglomerate, the corporate entity, UFC, wrong. I mean, that's powerful branding, guys. That in itself is pure marketing, pure hype, and in today's combat sports, that's a kind of attention. That's going to start to create a lot more discussion, not just amongst the fan base, but amongst fighters, because they don't always need the UFC machine to create massive events anymore. Now you've got Jake Paul, who's entering into the world of MMA. You've got other people who are taking a good close eye at all this. And like, don't get me wrong, the UFC, I think, is the gold standard, the biggest MMA company in the world by far. And they got they have the trump card. So I mean, but a lot of things have changed. I mean, things haven't 100% been quite like how they used to be. We now live in an era where fighters subsequently can build audiences independently. Social media has been able to allow that opportunity to happen with like various streaming platforms, different social media platforms, live events. the opportunity to, like, I mean, connect with influencers who are influencing the world. Cross promotion is growing. Hybrid fights is creating mass nostalgia and hype, and those fights are selling incredibly well. And it's crazy, guys, in a time where everyone's globally connected. This is why the Ronda Rousey Gina Carano fight matters more than what people think, because if this event on Netflix via through Jake Paul's MVP Promotions does well, then it might actually become proof that legacy stars still have massive leverage even outside of the UFC ecosystem. And this is the kind of stuff that I think Ronda Rousey and Gina Carano are trying to prove. More importantly, Ronda Rousey. Now let's talk about the matchup itself. Let's talk about the matchup itself. Like Ronda Rousey, she comes in with a 12-2 record. Ronda is the baddest. She's unbelievable. Gina Carano comes in with a 7-1 record. This fight is going to take place at 145 pounds. And realistically, I mean, there's a lot of questions, huge questions, surrounding both women. First of all, their ages. Ronda's 39, Gina's 44. Ronda hasn't fought since the Amanda Nunes loss. Remember, she had back-to-back losses, Holly Holmes and Amanda Nunes. And then Carano hasn't fought, I mean, in nearly 2 decades. I mean, hey, she's been doing a lot of filming, great movie star. But I mean, that's a long time. That's a massive amount of ring rust, or cage rust, if you want to call it, on both sides. And I mean, this fight is really going to start to expose these women in ways that perhaps we don't even know. But I mean, look, this could be about legacy. I think it's about legacy. I think it's about visibility. I think, it's about making history. A lot of people love these two women. I think they're absolutely great. I mean, and honestly, the curiosity is what's going to drive people to this. People want to know that these women pioneers still got what it takes. And especially once those lights turn on, guys, and the fans are screaming their names, there's that emotional component where the fighters start to connect with the people. And I mean, seeing these two women in the octagon who helped build this sport from the ground up together again in the octagon for one last major moment. I say last, maybe not last, but one major moment. I think that's so nostalgic. I think that's the kind of hype that's attracting me, that's making me so excited. So I mean, in my opinion, I mean, the real story isn't even the fight itself. The real story, I mean, it's about the power struggle that's starting to form underneath all these layers. And Ronda has a voice on her. Ronda Rousey doesn't like to stay quiet. She's exposing these comments, and she's saying she's saying things very, very public. She's also talking about how fighters are talking about, and executives actually conduct business behind closed doors, how negotiations and certain kinds of talks and discussions can actually change fighters' careers. How disrespect, real or perceived, it's irrelevant, can completely change the direction of major business deals. And so maybe, most importantly, this situation shows just how emotional combat sports really is. Think about that for a second. Because if people think fighting is only about the wins and the losses, and I mean, there's a lot to it, guys. It's not just about wins and losses anymore. I mean, we're talking about people's livelihoods. We're talking about people who have invested their blood, sweat, and tears into something that they love and have so much passion about. Egos matters. Respect matters. Recognition matters. Guys, sometimes all of that, ego, respect, all of that means a lot more than just the almighty dollar. So like, look, Ronda's walking into this comeback with something extremely dangerous, and she seems to be on an agenda, on a personal mission. Look, fair or unfair, I don't know, guys. I mean, she truly believes that the UFC, real or perceived, disrespected her. They doubted her. They undervalued her. And historically, the most dangerous version of Ronda Rousey has always been the version that has something to prove. And in this case, guys, she seems like she's found that. She's going to come out hungry and strong. I'm kind of worried about Gina Carano. She's a tough cookie. Amazing woman. At 44 years old to do this, wow. But Ronda's on a mission, guys. You better be careful. And whether she's right about Hunter Campbell and the UFC, I don't know. I don't know. Like, what do you guys think? Do you think she's right about Hunter Campbell and the UFC, or do you think this is just smart promotion for hyping up the fight between her and Gina Carano? And more importantly, I guess you need to ask yourself: can this event actually prove that major MMA stars still have real leverage outside of the UFC ecosystem? This is a huge, huge question that I have for everybody. Let me know in the comments below. Hunter is a very powerful man, guys. He is. He's a very powerful man. Look at all the stuff John Jones was saying about the UFC, how they took him off, how the negotiations, or apparently negotiations, fell apart. He was snubbed for fighting on the UFC Fight House card. He was very, very upset about it. He went vocal. He went public, and he was calling out the UFC. He was asking them to release him. And then all of a sudden, you see John Jones chatting it up with Hunter Campbell at a UFC event, and they're actually talking about the possibility of coming back, about him coming back. So just like that, things can happen, guys. But yeah, I'm excited about this fight. I think it's going to be fantastic. Nate Diaz is going to be fighting Perry. It's going to be absolutely crazy, guys. Don't forget, Francis Ngannou's coming up too. Lots of exciting things happening around the corner. I want to thank you guys for sticking around. Please don't forget to smash a like and subscribe. Hit the hype, hit the notifications, subscribe for exclusive content. Check out our promotional store. And before you guys leave, the pleasure was all mine. Of course, can't wait to catch you guys in tomorrow's video. But YouTube would like you to check out one of these two videos. So you pick, watch them both. And that'll be your homework for today until I see you guys tomorrow.